Hey there. Welcome to the Astro Psyche. I'm Shawna. I'm an astrologer, a teacher, and a guide. And in this video, I'm here on YouTube Live because I was inspired to come on and talk about the upcoming astrology and do some sort of intuitive messages. So that'll be partly because I'm going to just talk about what's coming up in a spontaneous and intuitive kind of way. And then we'll pull some tarot cards and just really an opportunity for us to sit together and to talk about what's coming up in the next week. And I really wanted to talk about an aspect that's coming up that can feel kind of edgy or a little challenging, and that is Mercury conjunct Pluto. And so we'll definitely talk about that. There's also a full moon in Leo that's approaching. And yeah, so we'll just get into it. And if you are listening to this live, I'm so happy that you're here. And please feel free to write in the chat. Let me know that you can hear me, where you're tuning in from. And as we go along, feel free to put messages. To put messages in the chat if you have a question or something that you want to elaborate on, or even if there's just something that really resonates with you. Okay, so the first part that's sort of like leading into the weekend is I want to talk about Sun and Uranus. Now, this is important because Sun Uranus is a very dynamic kind of transit, and it's also aligning with the full moon in Leo. And so this kind of means that we have a very dynamic transit, which is the Sun square Uranus in itself. That's very dynamic. And Sun Uranus is associated with surprises, spontaneity. And it's really about opening up new ways of being that are outside of your normal process. And it has a lot to do with your identity and also transforming and restructuring the ego. So the Sun is the ego, and Uranus is this element of surprise. In tarot, we can think of it, Uranus, as the Tower card with lightning, where something gets kind of turned on its head in a very unexpected way. And now this can be unpleasant, of course, but it can also be very empowering and very exciting and very very life-giving, very life-enhancing. And so that transit is happening this weekend, and we've been building up to it throughout this week. So maybe you've been feeling that energy. And then on top of that, we also have the lunation feeding into that energy, because the Sun is in Aquarius and the moon is moving into Leo this weekend. So that will create that full moon effect. So the moon, the way that I think about the moon is, so it's like this. The planets that move more slowly, so everything other than the moon, the Sun, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Uranus, blah, blah, blah. All of those planets, they're all sort of moving to create different aspects. They're moving through signs. And a Sun-Uranus transit, like we're having this weekend, is sort of more of like a broad level transit. And its themes are going to express themselves in your life depending on how that's connecting or not connecting into your chart. It's going to depend on what your life is like right now. For example, when Sun Uranus happens, if you're a person who already has like a very flexible sense of self, and you are open to and like spontaneity, um, and you have this capacity to see yourself in different ways and in different roles, that energy is going to be more familiar to you because that's very Sun Uranus energy. If you're a very unconventional kind of person, or if you do work or have hobbies that are unconventional, it's going to be more of a natural flow for you. Whereas if you already feel like you're stuck and confined in a scenario where you have lack of freedom, where you have lack of an ability to really be who you are, then a Sun Uranus transit is going to be sort of jarring, and it may express itself where it feels like you suddenly need to break free of something, you need to shed responsibility, or you need to reinvent yourself in some way. And again, this can play out in a very dramatic way that maybe can feel like a crisis, or it can be very harmonious and something that happens naturally. So that's going to depend on what's going on with you. Like what is your set point? Where are you at now when this transit comes along? I hope that makes sense. And yeah, the sun is about your sense of self and how you see yourself, how you identify. The ego is a structure in the psyche. And we need that structure. We need a strong, healthy, robust, and also flexible sense of self in order to move through the world, in order to assert ourselves, to create loving boundaries, to do the work that we need to do in order to have a healthy foundation, to have a home, family, relationships, etc. And Uranus is about changing structures. Uranus is about revisioning the whole situation. And so this theme is something that we've been leading up to, and that is going to peak this weekend. And now the moon is sort of like our day-to-day feelings, situations, scenarios. So the moon is just like our moods throughout the day. It's very changeable. There's a lot of flux. There's a lot of so I think of the moon as like if you have ever meditated or tried to meditate or done any kind of mindfulness practice, and if you haven't, you can sit down and do this after this video. And maybe you've noticed that you'll be sitting or standing or walking or whatever you're doing, and you'll notice that your mind is just going, right? I don't know about you, but that's how it works for me. Is whenever I meditate, especially at the beginning, it's like the thought. It's like, oh, did I take care of this thing? I'm hungry. I want my coffee. That's usually it for me. Is I'm thinking about having that really delicious cup of coffee or tea when I'm done with my meditation. And that process, we cannot control that. That's just, and it's very like fluid. So you'll be thinking about the coffee or the tea, and then you'll be thinking about what you're going to do after that, and your agenda for the day, the meetings that you have, conversations that you need to have, and then you can get pulled into like a scenario that you want to work out. etc. And it's kind of like this pathway. And then at some point, um, the goal of meditation is to continually bring ourselves back to, oh, I'm thinking, and I'm going to refocus from that thought to my breathing, or to my body, or to my the object of my meditation mantra, whatever that is. So the moon is like this process. Uh, when we follow the moon, we're following that stream of consciousness, that stream of thoughts, um, and I hope this is making sense. Stay with me. I'm circling around my point here. So I'm talking about this process of meditation and following the thoughts because uh, the moon is a symbol of our emotions, of our subjective experience. And these thoughts that we have in meditation, where you're thinking about this and that, and it's kind of like a web, and you move into a whole different thing, and then you come back, ideally, right? Um, we we cannot control that process, and the goal of meditation is to become aware of that process, because we're always doing that, every day, but we're just not noticing that we're doing it. So when we're going about our day in normal life, um, we're we're not always present. uh, Again, I don't know about you, but that's me. um, I'll be working on something and maybe thinking about something else. I'm washing the dishes and I'm thinking about all the other stuff that I have to do. And when we meditate, we're noticing that chatter, that constant like thinking and being either in the future or in the past, or I like this or I don't like this. There's always the thinking. And so in meditation, we become aware of that phenomenon. And through a practice, we create more space between that phenomenon. We kind of like space out the thoughts. Thoughts are always going to happen. I think that's a common misconception in meditation. That's a whole other talk. Um, but but it is important to know that meditation is about awareness. It's not about stopping your thoughts. It's about becoming aware. And so this is the moon. The moon is always moving, and it's moving very quickly and very fluidly. It moves through the zodiac in about a month. So it is the fastest moving body that we track in astrology. And it is a symbol of our subjective experience, of our subjective emotional thought process. And so when the moon connects into a transit, into an aspect like the moon is doing with Sun and Uranus, then it's like there's something inside of us that gets, it's like our subjective, emotional, animal, instinctual self, like that part of us gets fed into and connected into and tapped into this particular aspect, which right now is Sun Uranus, which is about uh, changing and transforming and restructuring the sense of self, the sense of identity. The sun is also a symbol of masculine, paternal type of figures or type of energy. So the sun uh, can also represent power, authority, autonomy. Some of that falls into Saturn. Saturn um, is more about uh, authority and autonomy, But the sun also has some of that element where the sun is more about you feeling like you matter, feeling like you exist here as a unique and special individual, and that you have something very important to bring, to shine forward. That feels like an appropriate moment to share with you the tarot card that I pulled uh, right before hopping on here. So I wanted this card to be sort of like a stamp or a template for this time for this recording, and we'll pull a couple of other cards as well. So again, I let me know how this resonates with you. If there's something in particular that you're really feeling or something that feels uncertain, I love it when you leave comments on here because it taps into something else that I want to say usually. Okay, so this is from the Good Tarot deck by Colette Baron Reed, and I'll show the card and then I'll describe it. So this is the Three of Fire, also known as the Three of Wands, and it's this figure, this person who is sitting within it almost looks like a half of a conch shell that's kind of like a boat, but it's like floating in the sky. And there's a sun above. And there's lots of like purple and maroon, and there's like candles on the conch as well. So this person is like on a journey. They're moving forward. And I'll read to you what this deck says of this card. Creative planning for the future, mapping progress, trusting in the unknown, spirit inspired ambition. So I took a peek at this before I hopped on here, and I was like, oh man, like I feel that for me too. I don't know about you if this resonates, but I'm definitely feeling that. So this is read in affirmation style. So she says, whenever I can't see how my dreams will coalesce into form, I can trust in the process of co-creation and engage more deeply in the process of envisioning something new. I've already started to make progress, and soon my passion will attract the perfect situation for me. The light of spirit helps me to see the way and feel the universe aligning to bring me what I need. I love this deck because the messages are so sweet and supportive. So I wonder how that lands with you. Sometimes messages like this, they can feel really good. Sometimes it can, even if it's a positive or inspirational message, it can even bring up feelings like fear, sadness too. So just notice what comes up. And I wanted to share also sort of a personal experience of Sun Uranus. So whenever I think of Sun Uranus, I think of when I was having Uranus, transiting Uranus, aspecting my sun in my birth chart. And so this is a transit that anyone's having if they have their sun in Taurus or in any of the other fixed signs. So Taurus, Scorpio, or Leo, Aquarius. There's going to be some kind of Uranus transit that has happened or that is or that will happen soon. And so during that time, what happened? What was my experience? So when I was having transiting Uranus, transit my natal sun in my birth chart, that was when I started teaching yoga. I went from corporate managerial. I worked in property management in my previous life, so to speak. And then I kind of had this, like, I was like, I need to do something different. And I didn't know exactly what that was, but I knew, like, I felt this, like, I don't know, it was a, like a, almost like there was an agitation there that, uh, it felt different than like being called towards something. But it was like, I need to, like, do something. I need to do something that is meaningful work, and I don't know what that is, but I have a lot of passions, and I'm really excited about it, and I'm gonna figure it out. That was kind of the mind frame that I was in. And so I started teaching yoga. I started, um, studying astrology, and eventually started giving astrology readings. I hosted guided meditation groups. Um, I feel like there's something in there. I trained in Reiki and Diksha, and it was kind of like this explosion of interests. And I took a lot of different trainings, and I started studying the intuitive arts, and so, like, all of these different things that were involved in spirituality, healing, um, very alternative types of things, right? So, especially for me, going from doing property management work, working in the corporate world, to like teaching yoga and astrology and Reiki, and um, I I left my full-time job, and uh, kind of did a little bit of everything. So it was very unconventional, and I want to share that with you, because not that that's to say that that is everyone's experience when they're having a Uranus Sun transit, but that it was also a time where I was already feeling like something needed to change very dramatically in my life. And so the way that that received an outlet was um, through my career, and also the way that I was in the world. Like, it wasn't just that I was trying to figure out different ways to have a vocation. It was that I felt like I was changing as a person. And I don't know that I could have articulated it quite in that way at that time, because when we're in it, when we're in these transits, we don't always have the words or the language to know what's going on. And that's why astrology is so helpful, because astrology gives us a a vocabulary for psyche, and it helps us connect and see what's happening. And so I wonder if you've had Uranus moments like that. The piece of this that's tapping into the full moon is that the the full moon is an illumination. It's where um, it's where things that we didn't know that we knew, that comes to light. Uh, Uranus especially is associated with divine insights and awakenings, sudden realizations. And with the moon here, this feels really supportive to allow for those insights to move through you, and for things to kind of cohese, for there to be cohesion. Uh, and so I want to pull a card on this, about this Sun Uranus, and then we'll talk about Mercury Pluto, because I do want to talk about that. Um, and so this is going to build on the Three of Fire. In what is it that we need to know about this upcoming Sun Uranus or Sun Uranus in general, if you're watching this at a later time, and how that connects into this full moon. Ooh, okay, so we're sticking with fire. I got the 5 of fire, which is the 5 of wands. So this has kind of like a like a Mars kind of energy for me. So the image here is a person that is seated and they have butterfly wings and like this really gorgeous like red head adornment, and there's butterflies around them. So 5 of fire is creative brainstorming, unity and diversity, and honoring differences. I have the freedom to explore the ideas that seem the most far-fetched. What seems like crazy today proves tomorrow to be brilliant. Like a child willing to stretch her imagination when a new playmate comes into the garden, I open to new people and new ideas, intrigued by what is novel and unfamiliar. This is totally Uranus. This is a time for what is counterintuitive, for appreciating the ideas from out in left field and what they may offer. This is like so perfect for Uranus energy. So this is the way that I'm reading this card, and let me know how this sounds to you, how this resonates, is this card is really saying to move into trusting and exploring something that feels kind of like unconventional or like it's a little out there, that it's like, no, like there is something important here for you to explore and to experience and to lean into that. And this card is also tapping into the Leo energy of the full moon that's happening this weekend, because Leo is about creativity and playfulness, and it's about unique, authentic self-expression. Both Leo and Uranus are rooted in authentic self-expression, and in doing that in a way that when you connect with what is like what most wants to be expressed through you and by you, that is when there is something really beautiful that shines forward, and that is when there is something that is of value that people respond to, and that there's kind of like this flow that happens when you connect to that. But this card is saying that you kind of you need to get outside your comfort zone to do that. All right, so I'm going to pause to just kind of shift gears here, because it feels like the other upcoming transit that's happening, which is Mercury Pluto, is like rooting this energy. So whereas what we've been talking about, Sun Uranus and the full moon in Leo, this is like about expansion and expressiveness. And Mercury Pluto is about rooting very deeply. It's very much about intuition and healing and working with the dynamics of the mind. But it kind of has this like intellectually intuitive, introverted kind of feeling. So this Mercury Pluto, so Mercury is currently in the sign of Capricorn, and Next week, it is going to conjunct Pluto. That means that they're in the same place in the zodiac. And this can kind of be an intense transit because Mercury is the mind, the thought process, communication. Pluto is about power dynamics, it's about uh, healing, intense situations. It's about like really being able to, in a laser like sort of way, read into the truth of a situation, whether that is conscious or unconscious. Pluto is about the unconscious dynamics that are happening that influence us in a very dramatic way, but in an unseen way. Pluto is about power, it's about healing, it's about resilience, and it is an energy that's like very intense and very can be very like prickly, so to speak. It's not a soft energy. Pluto can be, again, that's like this laser like cutting through the bullshit, is what Pluto is about. And this felt really important because Pluto is going to move into an entirely new sign in March. And that does not happen very often. So we kind of have this Mercury Pluto experience for the last time in Capricorn in quite some while. And so we're really getting to connect in with Pluto energy to get a sense for it, to get a feel for it. Now, Mercury, Pluto together are about, like, this combo is about going very deeply into your thought process, into research, into uh, thinking about and contemplating things very deeply, very intuitively. Uh, Pluto has a shamanic kind of tone to it. And shamanic in the way that uh, in shamanic practices, there is a process of going into an altered state to a whole other realm to either to get something or to find something or to bring something back, and then bringing that back and coming into the to the scene, to the ordinary realm. So it's like this journey for the purpose of gaining something that is deep in another world. And so this is what Pluto is. Pluto is about going into another place psychologically or emotionally, into a place that can feel dark or scary or taboo in some way, but that there is very deep healing in that place. Pluto is associated with shame and guilt and uh, toxic, um, like toxic patterns. But it's the thing is when we go into that, when we explore that, and when we look around, that there is healing there. So with Mercury being here, this is about healing thought patterns, healing the mind, and um, when we have Mercury Pluto, there can be a tendency toward things like rumination, like going into the same problematic thought process over and over again. There can be a tendency to fixate on something, uh, and there can also be a way to go very deeply into a certain experience, into a certain topic, and to bring some healing to that, to find an experience of comfort and healing by going through that which is difficult. And so I'm going to pull a card on this also. So this is, what do we need to know about this Mercury Pluto? Okay, so this is really interesting that this is all fire, all fire. So this is the 10 of fire, the 10 of wands. So it's this person that kind of has this like cloak dress sort of outfit. And it almost looks like she's like spinning these papers in a circle that are on fire. Okay, 10 of wands. Or 10 of fire. Yeah. Okay. This is great for Pluto. 10 of fire, burning away, releasing the excess. Endings clear way for beginnings. I may be overcommitted and have taken on too many burdens. In this moment, I do the work of decluttering my life. All that I release will take new form and serve the greater whole, but I no longer need to hold on to it simply because it once seemed to have value for me. I thank it for what it did for me, but say goodbye to the emotions, relationships, and situations that I realize do not belong in my life anymore. What a beautiful message for you. So, this is so Pluto, because Pluto is about purging, and Pluto is about taking everything down to the bones, down to the foundation, and knowing that what's left is solid and resilient. Pluto is so much about resiliency, but I think that there's a lot of fear around Pluto, because Pluto is also about stripping away the superficial bullshit that doesn't do anything for us. Pluto wants deep meaning. Pluto wants us to thrive, and sometimes, like this card says, it's like there's clutter, and that doesn't mean that our past experiences were not important or necessary or meaningful. It means that we're in the now, and we're looking at like, I feel this card is saying, like, taking a really good look at what's happening now, what you need now, what's good for you. And like this, like all of these cards are really about releasing and letting go, so that there can be new energy that comes in, or like a lightness that can come in. And I think too, this is also symbolic of Mars now being direct and beginning to pick up speed and move forward. I've talked to a lot of people recently who are like, what's going on? Like, why do I feel weird? Why do I feel like I'm just like in a funk? And I think there's this misconception that when a planet moves from retrograde to direct, that it's like, yeah, like we're good, like let's go forth, and everything's great. But the thing that we don't always realize is that when a planet moves from retrograde to direct, that planet is still very slow. So it's kind of like if you have an old car, uh, and it's stopped, and then you slowly push on the gas, it's gonna take it a little bit of time to gain speed. That's what the planets are like. It takes a little bit of time for it to gain speed. And Mars is also moving forward over the area of the zodiac in Gemini where it was retrograde. So it's kind of like moving very slowly. It's like really still focused on this particular area of life. So all of that to say that um that there has been this kind of like, I wouldn't say heaviness. Maybe that's the way that you experience it, but kind of like a slow rhythm the beginning of this year. And my sense is that as Mars picks up speed and as we move toward spring, which I've talked about in my 2023 forecast, that there's a lot of dynamic changes that are happening in spring, that it's kind of like we're moving. I guess I shouldn't say spring because that's only in the upper hemisphere. I forget about our southern hemisphere friends. Uh, March and April, March, April, and May. There's a lot that's happening in the astrology that uh, is about quick movement and things changing very quickly, uh, and transcending old patterns. And I feel that the astrology over like the next week or so is really um, encouraging us to look at what is outdated and what scenarios or ways of being are are too heavy and just not working anymore. What can be put down? What can you uh, let go of? And then also like what is it that is really exciting for you? What what makes you feel playful and alive? So I hope that you enjoyed this. It's so nice to sit with you and to be with you and to share these messages with you. If you are interested in working with me directly, I am taking on a handful of clients for individual one on one sessions, whether that's one time, a session where we talk about astrology and anything else that's going on with you. I am also uh, moving towards licensure as an associate therapist this summer. Until that time, I am taking on regular clients for sessions where we do astrology and spiritual guidance together. So all of that's on my website. You can find that at theastropsyche.com. And I'm wishing you a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you soon. Bye.